Okay, here we're gonna do a video on pan watercolor on fabric for embroidery. So I did not do the embroidery beforehand because I'm just throwing this together real quick. Hopefully you can hear me okay. So the first thing is I have my pan of watercolors. This is my daughter's from like 2 years ago, so I haven't wet any of them or made sure that they work, so this will be an excellent test. I just have a jar of water over here, right here, just a jar of water. Paintbrush, and what I'm going to do is I'm just going to get the paintbrush nice and wet, and I'm going to drop water droplets into the pans of color that I want, and I want to let the water soak into the paint so that it has a chance to hydrate. I'm going to pick a couple of colors here to see how they work. So I picked red and now yellow, and we'll do some green. Some blue. So you notice under my water dish I have just a paper towel, and it's helpful for controlling the amount of water that's on your brush. I will show you. So you can kind of see it's like absorbing in. So now that I've got some water on the surface of the pans, I'm going to just kind of agitate it, kind of mixing the water into the surface of the paint that's in the pan. So once I feel like I've got some good, you can kind of see paint on my brush here, I'm going to go ahead and rinse my brush out. So I can tell by the color of the water that because it's a pan watercolor, it's going to be very pale. So putting less water and doing more agitation, or kind of letting it dry out a little bit, will be of a big benefit in getting color saturation. So I did less water in this yellow, and I can see it's a little bit darker. Also, I can tell my daughter has put red into her yellow, so it's really more of an orange. So I'm going to do the same here with green. Just kind of get them all mixed around. Make sure you clean your brush so that you don't transfer water and paint from one color to another. Okay. So now I'm going to decide where I want the paint to flow on the piece. I don't know what you were going for on your original piece. I don't know if you were looking for an all over. I tend to do targeted watercolor. So you have to remember that fabric is absorbent. So when you put water down, it's going to move from areas from where you put it. So I put a drop right there, and it kind of filled the space already. So since that area is wet, you'll notice I'm just using clean water. That's just clean water, a drop of clean water, and then we're going to go ahead and put blue in there. So already I can tell I had like a big droplet. Here, I'll show you again. I had like a big droplet of blue on here. This is just a lot. Like, look at how much is on there when I dab it. So dabbing it on your paper towel can be helpful. So I'm just going to very lightly touch the tip of my paintbrush. And you can kind of keep touching until it fills the space that you're looking for. I can kind of direct it a little bit by saying, like, go to these corners. And then if you want it to spread more, rinse the color out of your brush, and then you can kind of add water to it. And the thing is that you're not going to be able to 100% control where it goes. So if you just used a really concentrated paint without getting the fabric wet first, you can do a more targeted, like, painting. So this is just the wet paint from the pan. This is not with additional water. So if I put a little bit of additional water in it, you'll see it kind of smear and spread. So that's another way to kind of saturate your color. So you can see the difference in saturation from this blue to this diffuse blue. I tend to use the water first when I want kind of a background color. So you can see everywhere the water went, the color will follow. So if you direct the color first, you can control better where it goes. So let's see if we can paint in one of these buildings without spreading. Okay, so this was pretty minimal water. Just the water that I dripped into the pan color and then let it absorb and mixed around. And I've got like pretty precise edges here. So when this dries, I'll be sure and post a picture of it because it's going to look a little bit different than how it does right now. So the red is pretty watery. Let's see what the red does. So I have to be mindful because I just accidentally dripped water from my brush onto my piece right there. I do not want to paint on that unless I want the red to spread wherever that dot is, which it doesn't matter because obviously this has not been embroidered and I just drew it on here real quick. But, you know, if this was a project that I was working on and wanted to be very specific, then I would want to make sure that that dried before I worked on that area. So if you want super saturated color from pan watercolor, it appears the best way to do it is to use your water to drip into the pan of your choice and then mix the water into the surface of the paint and give it a few minutes or a few moments really to absorb, and then use that direct paint onto the fabric. So you can see my red was more watery than my yellow and it is spreading past the edges, which honestly I kind of think is a little bit charming when we're doing embroidery. It doesn't have to be perfect. If you're looking for something super specific, then I would suggest doing just fewer drops of water in the pan, and then you can control the flow of the paint better. If you wanted to do, you know, something more kind of dreamy and backgroundy, you know, like we're gonna give it a little bit of a nuclear creepy sky up here. I'm putting lots of water in this fabric. You can see it spreading. I'm gonna go ahead and dab in a little bit of green. And then I'm going to add more water on top of the green to really diffuse the edges. I'm going to rinse my brush out. And I'm going to put some yellow orange on top of it just to see. So you can kind of see the way the colors are mixing. And we can add more. More water will be more movement. More movement in your piece in the paint because the paint follows the water. Wherever you've got water on your fabric, see here, it's even repelling the blue away. Kind of cool. But something to be mindful of if you didn't want the blue to go away. We can add some more blue in and see what happens when the blue meets the green. Kind of help encourage it a little here. Kind of neat. So, just for fun, I didn't use any purple yet, so we'll just put that down here. Add some blue into it. But you can see that these colors are pretty saturated just from the fact that they don't have that much water in them. If you just get your brush wet and smoosh it around on the surface of the paint, it's just not gonna have that saturation that that sometimes you want. Sometimes you don't want it, and that's fine. So anyway, I hope this was helpful, and I will be sure to post a picture of what it looks like when it dries. If you have any questions, feel free to message me or comment again. Good luck. Have fun.